themselves,
Yeah.
looking to nature for answers, and just prevention, not cure. Well,
Yeah.
cure as well, but mainly just living your life in balance with nature and in harmony with nature. And I was just sold. So being offered a job and being given the opportunity to actually go to Switzerland and seeing the
wow.
company and the flesh was
Mm.
like, I have to say, I'm smitten. So I've got this lovely, lovely job where I'm paid to visit health food stores, talk about food and herbs all day, and
Great.
meet the most amazing people.
Yeah.
And since lockdown, they basically, when I couldn't visit stores, unfortunately, they have me writing. So
Lovely.
it's a new pleasure now to find out that. So I spend some part of my day now reading things like clinical trials and herbal medicine research and writing articles about ailments and how herbs can help, and I love it. It's just so exciting.
It's wonderful. Yeah, it's really a wonderful job. I really I understand completely, because I mean, it is a privilege to work in our industry, I think.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful, and we're really a kind of a small community and very connected with our customers and each other and suppliers and so on. Yeah, it's fabulous.
It's
Yeah.
a small and wonderful world, I
It
have to
is
say. I
really,
just love
yes,
it.
absolutely. So, Sarah, then let's go and introduce Alfred Vogel, and who is he, and was he, and what did
Now,
happen
he
there?
was the founder of the company, and he was he was a bit of an eccentric in his time, a real maverick. He grew up in the Swiss Alps, and he was I can't remember when he was born, but basically by the time he was in his 30s, he was managing a health food shop, writing a health food magazine, setting up a clinic garden in the Swiss Alps. Basically, so it was around the time of the just before the Second World War. So he wrote a book called The Nature Doctor,
Yes.
and became a European celebrity in his day, where it was this little health food Bible where it's just showing people how to look after themselves. He was vegetarian. He really just felt we should connect with nature, and there's all these photographs of him in the Swiss Alps, basically with the shirt off, because well before we all knew vitamin D was good for you,
Yes.
he was out there making everyone who went to the clinic go for long walks in the mountains and garden, and just simple things like chewing your food, listening to your body. It was just really simple stuff. Now, as he got older, he just absolutely adored traveling, and he was a bit of a collector for plants. So he would go to parts of Africa and basically talk to indigenous medicine people and traditional healers and find out what they were using. He had such a curious mind. So he got devil's claw from South Africa. He went to Florida and found salpalmetto. His most famous herb, I suppose, that he's famous for bringing to Europe was echinacea, and he got that from an Oglala Lakota Sioux medicine man called Black Elk. So he met him, and basically they just really hit it off. And he was given echinacea seeds by Black Elk that he bought back and grew in Europe. And the echinacea we grow today are actually direct descendants of those original seeds that Black Elk gave him, which I think is just such a super cute story.
Yeah.
I just think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, the clinic garden got so popular because I suppose he was just such a well-known naturopath and really well respected that he actually had to make us a company basically by the time he got to the 60s. And I think this is really cool. What he did was he went to the local mayor when he was looking at the land, and he said, look, I want to set up this amazing organic farm and processing plant, and I want you to ensure that because I want nature to be respected and I don't want anything to change. He had an agreement with the local mayor that no heavy industry would be allowed ever in the area.
Clever.
And basically, I just thought that was, in the 60s to do that, when it was just, he had such a brilliant mind, and he really just anticipated things that might be a problem in the future. He also set up the company to be a trust before he died. So basically, everything that we do gets put into herbal medicine research, gets into education programs to help people help themselves. A big pharmaceutical company can't buy us out because it's a trust, not a corporation. I just think it's so cool on every level. That's what I'm enthusiastic about. Anyway, I'm probably waxing lyrical a bit too much.
But that's a real visionary, and real foresight to see, like who could see in the 60s what the world would be like nowadays, as we know. That's 60 years later. So, that's really amazing. And his product range still being as, if not more, well, definitely famous and available worldwide. So it's really amazing. Yeah. So let's...
we're testing his principles. Like he had all these theories about why fresh herbs were better than dried herbs, why you should keep all of the plant together rather than separating it out. So basically, he had all these, really well thought out theories, and that he had tested himself in the clinic. But we're testing them now scientifically to just make sure that we're not just blindly believing him and that it's true. And he was right. Everything we're testing we're finding that he was right.
Wow.
So in his little laboratory, full of these little handmade pestle and mortar machines, and his like little tincture. It's just, he was an incredible person. I'm so sorry I didn't get to meet him.
It's amazing. And let's have a look now at some of we were saying, I mean, the Echinophorus and the Echinacea is probably the most known, but we want to look at some of the hedgerow heroes and the niche ones, and I really look forward to that now. So what have you chosen?
Okay, well, yarrow complex is just... I have it here just because I use it myself all the time.
Fabulous.
It's what it is. Yarrow is a bitter herb, basically, and bitter herbs are just incredible. Yarrow, it isn't in season yet. I actually was thinking I should go out and get a visual aid, but it's just not flowering yet. But what it does is it's a bitter taste, and when you have something bitter before a meal, it stimulates all of your digestive secretions, because the digestive system works like a domino effect, and when you stimulate these bitter flavors in your mouth, it actually triggers the production of digestive enzymes. It calms a gut that's basically that's upset or spasming. Basically, it discourages things like parasites and bad growths, and we've got basically other herbs in there like lemon balm, which is relaxing and calming. We've got gin, which is another bitter, blessed thistle. So basically, you would use something like yarrow if you had a very poor appetite, like after illness, or if you were an older person who had just lost their appetite and interest in food. You would use it for basically any trouble digesting food. So if you were getting a lot of bloating and wind, if you had food intolerances where everything just seemed to set you off, no matter how good you were being and how much you were trying to avoid bad things, if you were finding that your digestive system was weak, it's just fantastic support for that. I just love it. Now,
must also be good for fat digestion then, a bitter, I guess, the bitters with...
any bitters are going to help with any digestive secretions. Now, dandelion is a lovely herb. Dandelion is in the complex, but dandelion is a fantastic herb for stimulating bile flow. It's got diuretic action, so it's great for water retention. But the other thing it does is it stimulates bile flow, so it's breaking down fats. And the other thing that bile does is, if you have a bit of a lazy bowel where the muscles of your gut basically are a bit sluggish, dandelion's very good at triggering bile, which is the kind of little spark that signals those gut muscles to keep moving. So dandelion, that lovely local weed, and again with its bitter flavour, is just a fantastic digestive stimulant.
Great.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah, I love yarrow complex, I must say. I do like it.
Absolutely.
It's
Now,
delicious.
and again, either dandelion on its own
Yeah,
or yarrow complex. I
yeah,
just think they're
it's
brilliant.
wonderful. Yeah.
Now, another lovely herb that's very seasonally appropriate is nettle.
Mm-hmm.
Nettle, traditionally, herbalists would use nettle as a sort of a blood cleanser, which sounds awful, but
Yeah,
it's really good for itchy conditions and it's very good for allergies.
yeah.
So things like where you have high histamine condition. And the other thing that herbalists would traditionally recommend nettle for is gout,
Yeah.
because it's very good at cleaning urea crystals
Mm-hmm.
from the joints that might
Mm-hmm.
build up in your tissue
Mm-hmm.
and cause a bit of inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lovely herb.
Yeah, and of course we have to always say maybe, probably, possibly might help doing all these things.
Oh,
And that,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like this is me being enthusiastic and talking about
of course.
what herbalists would recommend, you know?
But at the same time, the licensed products have the right, like a licensed product that can say on the box what it does. Is when we can say it does help. We're just being a little bit cynical maybe at times with not officially being
We
allowed.
have licensed remedies, and
Exactly.
basically, and when you license a herb, you basically apply to the HPRA for permission to make a claim for the herb.
Exactly.
So basically, you are so when you license it, the HPRA has said yes, the herb has traditional use for this function.
Yeah.
It can do this, and it means that it's very high standard. It's produced to pharmaceutical grade standards. It's
Yeah.
tested,
Exactly.
and basically the HPRA are happy for us to tell you that it does this.
Exactly. Yes. So
Yeah.
that's the difference.
And basically now. Other herbs, another herb that I really like is
Yes.
Plantago.
Plantago, yeah.
And
Love
again,
it. Yes.
yeah,
Great. Yeah. They also grow by the side of the road, don't they? The soldiers.
absolutely. We used to play soldiers with
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you would use Plantago is a lovely herb for sinus kind of conditions.
Mm-hmm. And would
Um,
that also help now, say, or potentially, of course, with, say, the kind of allergy-induced sinus issues, or?
Do you know what I use Plantago for is if I ever get to go on airplanes again,
Uh-huh.
basically when I go on airplanes, my ears pop, they get really sore because I'm kind of sinusy and I'm prone to getting a bit of congestion.
Yeah.
Particularly, I used to smoke, and after a cold now, I would find myself very congested.
Yeah.
So I use Plantago a couple of weeks before I go on an aeroplane, and I just find it brilliant.
That's fantastic.
It's a lovely herb for the head and just any stuffiness, any congestion. And I pour it into my husband's. I give it to my husband occasionally because he's a bit of a snorer.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's a really good
Happy
tip. Now.
oblivious.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's fabulous. Yeah, for snoring, that's what a good tip. I'd say that's half the nation. The one half can't sleep, the other one snores. So that's why the other
I
one.
think a lot of us have allergic rhinitis, and we
Yes.
may not be aware of it.
Yeah.
So basically, anyone who gets a bit of a drippy nose occasionally,
Mhm.
anyone who's quite crusty a lot, and you'll
Yeah.
see it in kids
Yeah.
if they're nose pickers,
Yeah.
because
Dry.
they're
Yeah.
quite crusty.
Yeah.
And it's you kind of think it's sneezing, or it can be sneezing, but sometimes it's just dryness, or
Yes.
sometimes it's just a dripping nose. You can kind of happily ignore it most of the time, but
Yeah.
listening to your body and being aware of these things can really help you
Yeah.
reduce.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Yeah, so people can we always encourage people come in and talk to us about, not that we always have the answers, but certainly with you guys helping us out, which is so wonderful. We have the tools to solve a lot of issues, to ease symptoms and so on, and even the cause. Another one actually of your products that is fantastic is and you have just launched for the first time in a long time the new Passiflora, isn't it? You launched 2 new products.
They're really exciting because it's such an old established company, and because all of our remedies are so effective, they very rarely come up with a new idea because they don't really do. But I'm really excited about these ones. We've got a Passiflora spray now, which I just think is delicious. It's for stress relief basically, and it's a lovely aniseedy flavor. It's got fantastic herbs that are kind of I think when you take anything through the mouth, whether it's a tincture or a spray, it gets straight into the bloodstream through those little mucous membranes in your mouth, so they're quite fast acting. And basically it's a pleasant aniseedy flavor, and I think it's really a fantastic product for just stress relief on the go. I just think it's really handy.
Current, isn't it, Sarah? Very current stress relief. Everybody's stressed.
It's like I just think we could all do with a bit of a support. And what I like to call Passiflora is my deep breathing in a bottle, basically, because some stress is like you've had a big fight with your husband, or you've got exam stress, or you've got, but for most of us, it's not that kind of high octane situation. It's unrelenting long-term stress, trying to homeschool your kids, trying to cook the dinner after a long day's of work. It's like looking after our parents, it's kind of like stuff going on all the time. And sometimes we need to just sit and do some deep breathing. But a lot of the time we don't. And I think that's where Passiflora can be really useful, and it's just, it's very gentle, it's very supportive, and it's something you can take all the time, So I just love it. Again, I use it myself all the time. I have it.
And it is very safe, would you say? So I mean, with Passiflora also, of course, if we have low mood and we are not motivated, it gives us a little bit of a lift, doesn't it?
I find it so supportive, and it's really gentle. None of these herbs are addictive. It's like the longer you stay on them, the better they work. They're just like deep breathing will benefit your stress levels. These are really gentle, supportive herbs. You can recommend the new product from the age of 12. So I just think that's brilliant, because there aren't a lot of things out there for teenagers during exams, or just actually, I've got kids, and they've been telling me that now that we're kind of coming out of lockdown, they've actually got shy with their friends, and they're worrying a lot about what they're going to say when they actually do get to meet someone, which
it's kind of mad.
I feel so sorry for them, the poor things.
It is difficult. It's really difficult on so many levels. And
we've all had a rotten year, really, at the end of the day. I'm so glad that we're coming out of it.
Yeah, fingers crossed anyway. It is fantastic. And just to have an anchor, whether that's going into exams or whether it's going to meet your friends, and also for the parent that leaves them off again. We have also older children that are already in their 20s or, high, like college age. So, we've left them go already. But
my mother is still worrying about me. So I'm assuming that never goes away.
It never goes away. Exactly. So it's nice also for either the parent or the child to have an anchor, and the oral spray is so discreet as well, and you don't have to put it in the
I'm imagining that way. I think that's kind of what's nice about it. It's just something you can kind of pop in your handbag, and because I think I think tinctures are amazing, but people can forget to take them. Because you have to drop them into little bits of water
And how would you rate the alcohol that we're often being asked about? So with the herbs being extracted in alcohol, and then we're being often asked about, alcohol, and is it safe and all that?
Do you know, alcohol is a fantastic preservation method. And again, because we're using fresh herbs, alcohol is drawing all those active components out of the plant. It's just such a powerful tool, and so simple. The amount, even if you took 30 drops of the tincture, which would be a massive dose, it would take about 3 or 4 minutes to metabolize it. So it's about the same amount of alcohol as 100 grams of grated apple. So unless you're a recovering alcoholic or you're really avoiding alcohol for religious reasons, you're not going to have any trouble metabolizing it. We have a few remedies that are suitable for children, things like yarrow complex actually, and you can the dose for a child is so small. It's just a drop per year of life. So a 5-year-old would only be taking 5 drops, which is just a tiny amount. It's not a concern.
Yes, that's great. It's just that, and we would say that, but I just know that's always a question. And then you also have some tablets, and it's also fresh tincture in a tablet, isn't it? In the likes of.
We're very proud of that actually, because I know that some people don't like tablets, but basically because we're using a tablet, it allows us to actually make tablets out of our tincture, which wouldn't be possible if we were using a capsule. Basically, most tablets are again made from dried herbs, but we don't have to do that because we've got this a technology that allows us to make tablets out of our fresh herb tinctures. So I just think it's a brilliant and very different way of presenting herbal medicine to people in that form, and a lot of people are just more compliant with tablets. They just find them more convenient, and they are alcohol free for those. Actually, the new Passiflora spray has no alcohol in it.
So that's great.
So if anyone is concerned, I think that's kind of a nice selling point as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I just started when we had our technological glitch here, because one of my favorite, again in mirror, in back to front writing, but that's Agnus castus. And I must say, if I had to choose one herb in all the herbs in my store or everywhere and anywhere, I actually would think that Agnus castus is one of my favorites. Now it is very woman related, also for male acne and that, but isn't it a fabulous herb? And are we safe now in keeping it, because it had been missing a while?
Do you know, Agnus castus is one of our licensed remedies, and it's licensed for PMS. It's very it's a fantastic woman's herb, basically, and it's very good for PMS type scenario. I mean, there aren't a lot of women's health is such an under spoken about and under researched issue that like they only started doing they never even did medical research on women till the 1980s, when women really had to fight hard for it. And whereas herbal medicine has been treating women's issues since the dawn of time, so I think for women's issues, herbal medicine can really just hit the nail on the head, because there's just so many hundreds of years of traditional use and of working with women's bodies and understanding that women have we have conditions that don't affect men. We've got it's very important that we have balance, and that our body retains homeostasis, and I just think herbal medicine is fantastic for women's health.
Yeah, it really is. It's a wonderful tool, and I've seen really fabulous results with Agnus castus in whether that's from young girls menstruating age to menopausal women and everything in between, and of course the male acne, which is also fabulous for
that is a traditional use. Now, we don't have an application for that. Our license is only for PMS. But the beauty of herbs is because they have all these active components, that a herb will have many traditional uses. So whereas something like lemon balm, we have lemon balm in our stress remedies because it's a calming herb, but we also actually have it in our yarrow complex because it can calm the muscles of our gut. So herbs basically are just they've got all these little magic components working together, and one herb can do a lot of work.
Yes.
all over the body.
Yeah.
It's they're whereas pharmaceuticals, they've identified one specific component, they've isolated and strengthened it to do a single job.
Yeah.
Herbs aren't like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's they're just so much more complex.
Yeah. Synergistic, really. And how many products do you have in the range at the moment, approximately?
I would love to know a quick answer for that. I should know that off the top of my head, but I
You
mean,
can.
I'd
You
say
must
we've got
count them.
at
Yeah.
least, have we 50, Susan? Like there's just
Yeah.
tons.
Yeah. Close enough, definitely, because I think
Yeah,
I think I have them all. I
yeah.
have your
I
whole
mean,
range.
we've got for stress alone, I'd say we've got about 6 remedies. For
Yeah.
digestion, we've got at least five.
Yes, yeah, and we've
And
lost so
again,
many. I mean, you had all these beautiful, like Uva Orsi, I miss so much the bladder herb.
that
Um,
unfortunately has gone
yeah,
to pharmacy.
oh,
It's
Jesus. It's just a
it's
berry, but there you go.
uh,
So at least if it's in pharmacy, we can still say you gotta pay a prescription or buy it in the UK, I think, where you can buy it still off the shelf,
yeah,
from what I understand. But yeah, wonderful bladder herb. And then when we think back, you remember we were a long time in the trade. We had pesticides, we had hemp, Galeopsis hemp nettle, we had
yeah.
the feverfew, we had we've lost Kava Kava, black cohosh. I mean, we've lost about
That's it.
15, I'd say. Yeah, which is so tragic. So it's
But
important for
this is
people.
why I think Vogel have been really trying to, we've been very active trying to license the herbs,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
herbs like Agnus castus, if you don't license them, they're
yeah,
just not available.
yeah.
So we license whatever we can as a way of protecting herbal medicine
Staying
in as much
available.
as possible.
Yeah, yeah. And
It's
this is why we need the consumer to really would invite our customers and our fans to support herbal medicines and to look into them, not blindly believe anything we say, really, but to do the research, to read about them, how they're used, and then and let's keep them, because they're such a vital
that's it.
contribution to our health and our planet as well. And
And our
also,
heritage,
yes, yes, and also I think sometimes we forget that the people that harvest these plants, now they're out of a livelihood also. If we're
yeah.
not allowed to sell these plants anymore as herbal remedies, they just disappear, and so does the industry. And that's very, very sad.
And when you look at our poor hedgerows,
Yeah,
I mean, it's unfortunately intensive farming really
yeah.
is decimating a lot of our wild plants that would have just been such an integral part of our traditional medicine,
Yes, yes.
culturally.
And very much in Ireland as well, because I'm, as you all know, I'm not from Ireland, but I know for a fact that many people tell me about what their grandparents did, when they were young, and how they used the plants and the nettles and all the seaweeds, traditionally.
Absolutely. Carrageen for a
There
chest.
you go.
Basically ivy and thyme for
Yeah,
a chesty cough.
yeah.
I mean, there's just so many of them.
And they all grow here. We went for school walks when the children were in primary school, and we had the sundew and the yarrow and the tormental, and all it was all growing, by the side of the road or up on the hills and tracks that we went along. So it's really exciting. Yeah, and
And
actually
they're all still there,
yeah,
just waiting for people to discover them.
yeah,
It is very
rediscover.
exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and it'd be nice to explore again and learn more about it. So we really want to encourage everyone to dig into it and be curious about herbs and what they did and
That's it.
how they were used.
Not
Yeah.
just for health, but for the environment.
Yeah, and have you got? There's website which would be the best place where we could all find out a bit more? Would you know, Sarah? Is it the UK Vogel site, or where would we find more information?
There's an Vogel UK site, but there's an Irish one as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
And I would recommend the Irish one, basically because there's if you are looking for herbs, there's a stockist list. So
Oh yeah.
if you find a herb you really like, it'll tell you the nearest health food store
Great.
where you can buy it.
Yes.
And we've got we've got a number of my colleagues and myself are kind of writing plenty of articles on there, and we've got a fantastic menopause hub as well. We're very, very proud of our women's health information hub. There's this wonderful woman called Eileen who and basically it's just the queen of menopause. I mean, if there is a niggle or a question you have about menopause, this woman can answer it for you.
Fabulous.
She's just amazing.
Yeah.
We've got a helpline as well that
Lovely.
consumers. I'll send that to you, Susan, if anyone would like it.
Be great. Yeah.
It's where you can talk to. Like they even work on Saturdays.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah,
if
that's good.
anyone would like to talk to the company direct, there is that resource.
Yes.
You know, I just think they're brilliant.
Yeah, and I do too. And it's, you know, I also, before we got together here, said that the first, when I opened my store in, where are we now, in 2002, that the first course I did was the Vogel phytotherapy course, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I don't know if it still exists, but it's certainly something wonderful. I learned so much. I still have it. I still have the folder, and it's amazing. I learned so much at that time, and
Yeah, I know most of what I know by reading a health encyclopedia that Wendy had at her shop,
Wendy,
and again it was all a Vogel stuff, and
yeah.
he contributed so much of what we know about herbs
Yeah.
and natural medicine.
Yeah.
He was just incredible.
Yeah, and our poor viewers, because we're such nerds and such fans, right? We get we get so passionate about it. You know, I often find you know, people might.
Oh, we've gone way over time, have we?
I have no idea. I don't even look at the time because I can't see the time. So, you know, I'd be going on forever. Feel free to check the time, Sarah, because I really don't know what time it is. But you know, when we get going as the passionate people